Okay, now that we finished cleaning our loading plate and our applicator, it's now time to make sure that we have everything we need to run our electrophoresis. So before you should have a container that you'll need to fill with about a quarter of the ways with ice. And nestled on that ice, you'll need to place your electrophoresis chamber and make sure that it's going to be positioned in such a way that it's level to the countertop. Right? We do not want it to be lopsided in any way. All right? Before we add our buffer, we need to prepare our electrophoresis gates. So on your desktop, you should have these black metal blocks that are going to serve that purpose. In order to prepare them, we need to delve into our bumper wick container and remove some pre-soaked bumper wicks. These bumper wicks are soaked in potassium phosphate buffer, much the same one that's going to fill our electrophoresis chamber. And to set these guys up, we're going to go ahead and place our bumper wicks about maybe midway through and just kind of fold it over to the other side. Right? The trick with these guys is to make sure that when you place them in your electrophoresis chamber, that you sandwich them between the platform that's in the middle and the electrophoresis gate in such a way that if you were to pull down on the other side, the bumper wick will not slide off. We're going to repeat the process for the second bumper wick. Again, maybe about halfway on one side, fold it over to the other. Make sure that when I place it in my chamber, it's sandwiched between the middle platform and the gate. Go ahead and try pulling to make sure that it will not slide off. Once I've done that, now I can add my buffer to my chamber. I'm going to be adding approximately 100 mils of potassium phosphate buffer on both sides of the chamber, right? Not necessarily the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This buffer's concentration is 20 millimolar, and it's been pH to 6. We want to make sure that our bumper wicks are going to be submersed in the potassium phosphate buffer. Okay. You'll notice that some of your bumper wicks are a bit dry. We'll address that issue later. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just kind of set this aside and work on preparing my samples. Alright, to prepare my samples, I'm going to get my different treatments and I'm going to bring my clean loading plate front and center, and grabbing my P20, I'm going to adjust it so that I have that I'm going to be dispensing 4 microliters in every well. So that's 040 on the dial. Right, so we'll start with our first treatment, which I believe had no growth hormone. Right, I'm going to place it in the first well using my finger as a guide. You'll notice that I am moving my pipette tip back and forth so I can evenly distribute it against a small well. Remember, it is a very tiny amount of volume, so you need not only to work quickly to prevent evaporation of your sample, but you need to make sure that it's going to be evenly distributed across your well. New sample, new tip. Now this may not be very easy to see on camera, but when you are doing it, you'll easily tell when it's nicely distributed in your well. Alright, once I've done my 4 samples, I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to the group across from me or in front of me so that they can utilize wells 5 through 8. Alright, I'm going to put my samples away. The next step is to procure from your TA a cellulose acetate plate. Right. Now this cellulose acetate plate has been soaked in a buffer and it should look something like this. Right? It's very important that you handle it on the edges. Do not grab it. Right? So you'll notice when you grab it, there are two sides. One is a very shiny side. It's pretty much plastic. And the front side, which we'll call our front-facing side, has a nice thin uniform layer of cellulose acetate deposited on it through some method. Right? So your plate hopefully shouldn't have this texture to it if you're seeing this on the camera. It should be nice and smooth, but the first thing you want to do is to notch off a corner, right, so that you know what side is going to be your top side. Right? You'll also find it very helpful when you notch off your corner to distinguish between the two sides if you're having trouble. Right, once we've done this, we're going to obtain a blotter pad from a designated container, and we're going to go ahead and put this face down onto the blotter pad and grab our aligning base, nicely cover it, and press a little firmly to remove any excess phosphate buffer that has accumulated on the plate. I'm going to remove the blotter pad. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't, but almost certainly without fail your plate that has a cellulose acetate will go ahead and stick to the bottom. The easiest way to get it off is to use your finger and push it and slide it off such that a corner goes ahead and hangs over the aligning base. You can then just kind of push up and it should come up nicely. I'm going to flip this aligning base over, right, and I need the center application line. That should be what you're interested in. Right, so I'm going to align the bottom of my plate with that center application line. Remember, this is face up, so I got that nice uniform layer of cellulose acetate on top. Right. By now, my other group mates have finished loading wells 5 through 6. I'm going to go ahead and grab my applicator at this point. I'm going to align it such that it fits nicely in this loading plate. I'm going to prime my applicator by pressing down a few times such that those metal combs can start wicking up my sample. Once I've done that a few times, I'm going to transfer it over to my aligning base. And again, it fits right in. And I'm going to press and hold for about 3 to 5 seconds, such that the amount of sample that's been wicked up through capillary action in the combs is deposited nicely onto my plate. Right? If you were to squint, you probably would be able to see some nice indentations on your plate so that you know that your sample has been on there. Next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and remove it again by using a nail and pushing up. Right. And we're going to now put this cellulose acetate plate, which now has all our samples on 8 wells, and we're going to put it onto our electrophoresis chamber that's already been set up. Okay. So, since amylase, which is what we're looking at, is generally negative, it's going to migrate towards the positive side. Right? So the top side is going to be on my anode. Right? So I'm going to put this face down. In other words, this is a nice plasticky part on top. And I'm going to rest it right on my platform. My plate seems to be a little short. Yours should not be, since mine was custom cut. But the next thing you'll need to do is place a glass slide right on top of the gel gates. Now, if you still see those bubbles that we saw earlier in the bumper wicks, then that would be a nice time to go ahead and grab a pipette and aspirate some buffer and just kind of put it to where you think there you might see some bubbles. We do not want any bubbles at all on the wick. We need that nice good contact so that the current can travel across the plate. Once this is set up, what we'll do next is cap this. Make sure that you have this nice contact with your leads to the electrodes. We'll go ahead and plug this in. We'll turn this on. And we're going to apply a nice steady current, about 150 volts, and we'll do so for 30 minutes. So make sure that the V is held constant. All right? And we're going to increase the voltage to 150, and we're going to time it for 30 minutes. Pressing run, we'll go ahead and start the process.